January 19th, 2016 Finance Committee to order. The first item will be the pollution control polymer system. Superintendent Dave Smith. I'm just going to let you talk about it, Dave.
Okay. Well, we have a polymer system down at the treatment plant, and basically what it does is it pumps a chemical polymer, and then it mixes with water to dilute it to get a certain concentration. The valve that controls that water is broken, so it's glued together, and the automatic part that controls the water, we had to disconnect that. So basically it's working, but it's not working properly. They don't make replacement parts, so we're kind of in a bind and we need to get a new system.
So they don't make replacement parts?
They don't make replacement parts. From what I understand is this has been a problem with this system since day one. We've had it for 13 years.
Maybe talk right in the mic, Dave, just bring that close to you.
It's been a problem since day one with the system, and we've had it for 13 years, and it happened to us. Of course, it happened to us 5 or 6 years after it's happened to everybody else.
Right. So this company would just make a brand new one.
Yeah. I got a quote from the company that made our system, which is $13,000 one, and I got a quote from another company that's a little bit less. It was like $10,800, I think.
Yeah, I think it says $10,755. But
Yeah.
the company that for the $13,000 that made the system, will the lesser one fit into the system?
Yes,
okay?
it will. It will fit. And Orono has the system, the cheaper system. Orono has that system, and I've contacted them, and they love it. They have no problems with it.
Okay.
Can they buy spare parts?
I didn't get that far with them, so I could find out.
That might be a question to ask before
Yeah,
the next meeting.
I could do that.
Can we get parts for either one of them, or neither of them, or whatever?
Yeah, I'll do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that might change the overall the bid thing too, depending on if one of them does. If one can make spare parts, the other one can't, then let Patty know so we can write that the right way on for the next meeting.
I'll find out if they can get spare parts for their system in Orono. But for the system that we have now, you can't get spare parts, and that
Right.
kind of pushes me away from ordering another system from that same company. Anyways,
Right, for that reason.
for that reason.
And you can call the company themselves and ask them, right?
I can call the company. Yeah, absolutely.
Call Orno and that company.
Yeah, the company that's with the less expensive one is right out of Maine anyway, so
Right.
I'll give them a call tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'd call Orno too, like
Yeah.
Stan suggested too, just to make sure.
Yeah.
Any other questions? So this will get forwarded to the February 1st meeting without a recommendation. We'll just, when everybody else is here, we'll go through it again. We'll vote on it on that
Okay,
first.
sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Okay, the next item, MDOT traffic light placement, not replacement. The Maine Department of Transportation wants to install a red and yellow blinking traffic light at the intersection of Brunswick and Center Streets. The MDOT will fund the cost of the installation at a total estimated cost of $20,000. The city's responsibility will be to fund the operations, maintenance, and any necessary repairs once installed. You or John? John? Scott?
Me.
Both you guys come right up. My understanding is talking to Bill last week when Patty and him sent me the draft, that this was because of a lot of the accidents, I guess, that we're having there or something. Is that?
Well, I'm here only because DOT contacted me 2 years ago, and they had done a traffic study. I never seen it go through backs, but the DOT, because it's a state road, had done a traffic study, and because of the traffic incidents at that intersection, they said they'd fund it. So for us, and back then, it was a simple form, short questionnaire, sent it back to them. It was at least 2 years ago, and then now they've come back. So they want to install it.
I guess I wonder too, when there's another one just quickly down the road there, they're going to be in sync together, so it's not like
Well, it's a flashing
just a
light.
flashing.
Yeah,
It doesn't
it-
stop anybody.
Yeah,
Right.
slows them down, though.
It kind of makes you look up. I think a lot of people look left
So it's going to be red on.
down the road instead of.
It's going to be
where they
red
should.
on Brunswick and then yellow on. Okay.
It's a bad corner.
Yeah.
Think that will help out with
Yeah,
anything?
I
will.
think anything that you put up there that's visible, that is gonna alert people to an intersection there or approaching intersection, I think.
How many accidents we had there?
It's a good question. I don't know, because I haven't seen a crash survey on that, done for the state. We can do a crash survey for you. I can have a crash survey done and find out what we've had for
If
accidents.
it's 3
there.
accidents a year, why the hell are we bothering to spend $20,000?
We don't.
We're not.
We're not.
We're not.
Somebody is, I am, I
But
pay taxes.
I understand what
I'm
you're
gonna pay for
saying.
maintenance of it afterwards.
Yeah, no, I get it, believe me, I get
I
it.
can have the state pull a traffic survey for us for the council meeting. I can have that.
There are,
information.
there are quite a few incidents at that corner. I live pretty close.
Bill mentioned
And
that
you-
there's quite a
yeah,
few.
yeah.
It's going somewhere.
Right.
Whether we get it or Brewer gets it, it's going, the money's spent, it's going somewhere.
Right.
And I know that traffic lights can be sometimes a maintenance problem.
That's
but-
what was gonna be my
But this is
question to you.
an LED, and these are much, much, much lower maintenance.
So not a
Just
lot.
a single head with a 4-way on it.
So you don't see us spending thousands of dollars on this every year,
No, it doesn't have the control board like the other one does.
just flashing.
Yeah.
And Bill had said it's, there's
There's
a
no
lot of,
timing sequence.
and Bill had said there's a lot of near misses too. You
Oh,
know, when this
sure.
happens, you know, so he thought it was a very good move on, and then that we didn't have to pay for it.
We pick up a lot of
Yeah.
parts there, I can tell you
Yeah,
that.
there's,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a good move, but what I can do is I can contact DOT and find out when
I'd
they
be
started the
curious.
survey and what caused them to want to put the light there. And I can have that for your council meeting on
Beautiful.
that information. And I'll have the state do a crash analysis there for me, find out what our crash incidents are.
Okay. Any other questions for these guys? Perfect, thank you guys.
You're
Might as well
staying,
stay
I'm
right
good.
here, because
Okay.
you're both up next, or
Right.
I think you
Well,
last
the
one.
animal control thing next?
Yeah, but then you're
I
right
can-
after them, so you
I'll
might as well
keep
stay
my
right
mouth
there.
shut.
Animal Control Agreement, Penobscot County. The Animal Control Agreement with Penobscot County is due for renewal. The cost for this service has increased from $2,704.20 to $4,800. The increase is due to additional calls that were received last year over and above the yearly stipend of $2,704.20. Police Chief Scott Wilcox is looking for a recommendation to the full council for this agreement. Chief.
Well, this is the agreement that we have with the Penobscot ACO. This is the person that we contract with for now. We're in a contract with other communities that utilize her. I don't know what the increase is for. What I do know, I talked with Chief Ewing in Orono. His seemed to have gone down. We're guessing that is based on calls for service. And I will tell you that at the end of last week, I dropped the ball on contacting the ACO. It's my fault. I didn't get a chance to get that done. And I can have that answer for you at the full council meeting as to why this is an increase. In talking also with another chief, or maybe it was just Chief Young, there are other chiefs in the Region 5 Chiefs meeting, it sounds like it may have gone from like a call-by-call basis to like a 40-hour basis on increase of why we're paying more, but again, I don't have a good answer for you, and I own that.
That's
And,
okay. I mean,
I will get that information for you and have it available for you as soon as possible. I can contact you tomorrow and find out what the increase is from, because it is a substantial amount more. I do know that we're utilizing the ACO quite a bit in town, and I'll just get a better answer for you.
I know that this was a question back at some meetings ago, so maybe we are using more than
How
normal.
how many towns, how many municipalities are in the region that this ACO serves?
I know that they do Penobscot County, the Orono, Old Town, what is it? Greenfield. Yeah, so it's surrounding communities in Penobscot County. Bangor and Hamden share an animal control officer. I checked with Chief Rogers down there. They share an ACO. My understanding is we used to contract with a town employee here at one point in time. We went away with it and went to the Penobscot County Animal Control Officer to utilize them.
Do we know why Bangor and, who'd you say, Bangor and
Bangor and
Hamden?
Hamden share one, and it's because they trained their own. Bangor trained their own, and Hamden helps with that. And so it's an agreement between Chief Rogers and Chief Hathaway that they use an animal control officer down there.
I mean, that's nothing we want to look into, see if we could share with that. Better off to keep going what we have.
Years ago, we had our own animal
Oh, yeah, we did.
control
I think we had some
officer.
issues, didn't
It'd be
we?
a lot
Went
less.
to the police department for a
Yeah.
while, and that got to, because they have to be trained.
Right.
They've got to be state certified, and they have to go to training before they can even start. And then there's upgrades on training, And by law, we're supposed to have one.
Right.
Right.
So
I think
then
it's,
we had somebody from Public Works, but then that was becoming an issue with overtime and.
Yeah.
Holden's in on that too, right? Holden? Is it Holden PD? Because I think it was Gene Fazella I talked to about this as well.
That's all for this,
For this one animal control
that's quite a few
officer.
areas just for
It
one
is.
person.
It is.
Yeah.
That's why I was kind of asking the question about the
Seems
Bangor
pretty high,
Hamden one. Is
too.
there something we could do, or if Orrin or us got together, had our own type of thing? That's why I was just throwing that out there. Well, you can find out anyways for the
I
first
can,
meeting.
yeah, without any problem, I can contact her and she can tell me why that it's doubled.
That's a lot.
If it's something, I mean, I can reach out to Mark Hathaway at Bangor and say, is this anything that you're interested in doing, and find out.
I'd be
whether-
interested to see what they say. I
Sure.
mean, it might be something that it's just Orrin on us, depending on what Bangor says. If they want to do something about, the two of us,
Yep, sure.
see what you can find
Yeah, no
out.
problem. I can do that.
Yeah, that seems too much.
Any questions? Thank you, sir.
Great.
Moving right along. Item number 5, Public Works plow truck. John received 2 bids. He's going to explain about one of the bids and specs. And I did call Miles earlier today. So Miles can jump in too on this. That Council McLeod put down the vehicle's ready to be replaced, and we haven't done that for 4 to 5 years as far as following that replacement schedule. But Miles can update you on that. So,
Well, the way we used to do it was we had a replacement schedule, and it kind of came around to when it said to be replaced, things were replaced. Well, there's some problems with that in that you may be replacing them before their useful life is up, or you may be waiting too long, or sometimes you may replace something with an item because it's on the replacement and it's not necessarily exactly what you want. So we've seen some of that, and that we've changed. Public Works has changed some of the equipment that they've had over the year. In this particular case, the dump truck, and John can talk about the shape that it's in, but it was a 2003 dump truck, and it was on a schedule to be replaced if you go back to the old schedule in 2014. So it's actually exceeded its life.
it's life. Yeah. And I believe John has some parts to show us too for that too.
Yeah,
I'd
well,
also like to add, and I apologize to John and to the committee, when John brought me in the bid for this, he had the amount highlighted, and when I copied it, the highlight didn't show up, so these figures are totally wrong, so I will let him explain to you.
Yes.
all right. So, we bid plow trucks with the chassis, which is just a cab and chassis now, and then we bid the body and the plow rigging separately. You sort of cut the middleman out, because in the past, you go to one supplier and they just mark up the attachment. So I bid it that way. I put a bid package together for the chassis. We went out to 3 bidders. One chose not to submit a bid. And I had a low bid of $61,318, but it didn't meet the specs. And we had a shopping list to comply with. The biggest issue on the non-compliance was the thickness of the frame. It wasn't a lot, but it was enough that you could get a couple of years, at least 2 or 3 years out of the heavier frame. And of course, this truck is the one that does the pond. It's our country truck, we call it.
Okay.
So it's on the gravel roads a lot, so it gets pounded. The one that we're looking to replace is a 2003. It has 140,000 miles on it. I brought you some examples of corrosion. If you want to see, I've been talking about corrosion. This is from a 2011. I'm going to bring them up there, because I want you to see it.
Absolutely. Pass
That was
them
a
around.
transmission line that blew this weekend on a 2011 with 54,000 miles. That right there, the tapered section, is supposed to be straight, but it's corroded off. That's a prime.
You're the one that puts your stuff on the road.
Well, I've talked about that too. The one government entity says that I can't use sand, and one says I can't use salt. Regardless, corrosion is an issue. The truck that I'm looking to replace is much older, sees much more wear. It's time. I told you I wouldn't come until it was time, and it's time. So I'm recommending the $71,425 is the actual price.
So we go to the February 1st meeting, well, that will be the one that will be on there, the 71
Or 75.
or 75. So we'll make those adjustments on that. And you said the other one was because it didn't follow all the specs, or didn't
Correct.
fit everything correctly.
Correct.
Okay.
It was $10,000 less,
But
but
they
it
didn't
didn't
bid
make all the
everything.
specs.
Right.
We could certainly live with it. This one here, I'd recommend for a 15-year replacement,
Okay.
one as spec'd. The one for $10,000 less, we could certainly work with it, as less horsepower. It has thinner frame sections. There's a shopping list of things that it doesn't comply with. But for $10,000, I think you get a lot more use and a lot more time. And it's certainly a lot more heavy duty because of its intended use.
Does it make any difference in the mileage, the weight of the truck, or what you get per mile?
It can slightly, but when you're talking a dump truck, it's about 3.5 miles a gallon, no matter what. And the additional weight doesn't make that big of a difference. It's not extremely substantial in the greater section size. So that's the truck.
Questions on the truck?
Just would it be possible to have the differences listed so we could look at it, just
Yes.
so
Yeah.
if somebody says why, you have an answer?
Oh, so, on the specs, you mean?
Yeah, on the
Yep.
specs.
Yeah, and I'm not saying, I mean, you're asking and I'm recommending that we go with the one that met all of our specs.
Yep.
Right.
I can live with the one that's $10,000 less.
Just knowing that it might not last
Just
as
knowing
long.
that, you know, that you've got additional frame thickness, and you all been experiencing it with your own vehicles, I'm sure. It doesn't take long.
You can just have that for us for the February 1st meeting, just the specs, the ones that they didn't come in with, the $10,000 less. That'd be great. All right, let's go to the,
6.
yes, sir.
Side dump and body is pretty straightforward. They're essentially the same thing. There's only 2 suppliers in the state now. Tenco is our third one. They really don't supply anymore. 65,705. And it's apples to apples.
This is the one that, Miles, you said was when?
Well,
This is the
part of-
dump
part of-
Oh, it's
body.
all part of the body.
This
That's
is
part of the body.
yeah, this is the
Right.
plow, the wing, and the body that fits
That
on
goes
the
on the
chassis.
truck.
Right.
Gotcha. So that,
Give you an idea, that if you combine those two to get a full package, it's $137,000
okay, so that would be the one, that would be the one then that would go for the February 1st then. Any questions on that for John? Okay, move on to the sweeper, which I know you've been wanting to get one of these for a little bit.
Yeah, the sweeper, I don't even know how old the one we have is.
Old.
It's old.
It's old.
We bought one from the University of Maine, which was the same model many years ago, 10 plus, and we've harvested about everything that we can. We actually rivet old street signs on the inside of it because we can't weld it's too thin. So it's, every bit of good is gone, and you can tell by the $3,500 trade-in value that about every bit of good is gone out of it. Again, I had a lower bid. Difference, the delta was $13,670. There was 64 exceptions taken to the specification. That was a significant list. The one that we inspect has a stainless steel tank. That's the biggest wear item, the most expensive portion. So I'm recommending the $249,725 for the Viking Chavez bid. That's a Johnson sweeper,
Does that get used?
all the time. Yeah, it's multi-function. The new ones are much, you've probably seen them with the dust. The newer ones have technology that cuts the dust down significantly. There's a silica hazard that we're concerned about for everybody. But with the MS4 requirements for catch basin cleaning, a lot of the commercial truck traffic that we see through town, if we weren't cleaning it all the time, I think you'd notice a huge difference.
I almost think that, I'm pretty sure we talked about this last year, budget, because we talked about, one or two of us brought up about leasing, but as far as what we pay for a lease, it was better off to buy our own than to lease it, because as much as you have to do it because of all the permitting and everything else now going on.
Leasing or hiring, subbing it out?
I think
I'm
we
not the
talked.
finance director.
I thought we talked about, it was like over a year ago or something, or last year, we talked about what it would be the lease, but we'd be better off to buy. I think Miles had said about buying outright on our own.
Yeah. I think we were about 30,000 less than we projected on that one. I think we were at 280 or 285.
Questions on this one? So this one will go to the February 1st meeting as well. Thank you very much, sir.
I'll get my dirty parts off your desk.
Well, actually, they're
Hey,
nice and clean.
the props work. There you go. Do they help? Absolutely.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Go to the next one, huh?
Don't bring in the whole plow.
All right, the last item on the agenda, we'll have a couple of people come up. Travis, David's gonna come also. And I know that this item made the Bangor Daily News today. Travis is going to discuss that. This is an island purchase request. The city has received an offer from Thornton Construction to purchase Edging and Drift Island located on tax map 25 lot 250, the amount of $10,000. I got a map here if the council wants to see where that is.
Just first of all, I'd like to introduce Mr. Dan Thornton, representing Thornton's Construction, if there's any questions for him as well.
Thank you, Dan, for coming tonight.
We're going to,
Show them which one that is.
that's the only map we have in here right now, but I can show.
I think you do.
This is French Island right here. Touch water, half the planet.
Yes,
Could it-
that's the one.
It's the one, the one behind where the it's behind where the,
Behind
yes.
Donto
it's
Dam,
about
right.
the- Yeah.
Where
So
they shot the
Travis is-
fireworks.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's where we have the fireworks, that's right. So
No,
Travis and Dave
no,
are gonna.
We never had the fireworks there, did we?
That's where they set them up.
Yeah.
Well, okay, now then I don't know where it is.
Straight there.
That
Yeah.
one, isn't it?
If you look straight off,
That one.
it's just upstream from the bridge, right
That's the
behind Dave's Service Center and behind
Yeah.
where Don Till Done
Yeah,
store used to be.
yeah.
Right across
Right
from
behind that.
the new statue.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I never remember.
So Travis and David are gonna explain, what Dan's, family would like to do with it and have some clarification of what was actually printed today.
Right. Dave's going to get into the conversations with Mr. Thornton. Just to tell the council how this all started is Mr. Thornton had proposed some development years ago, and he just has an interest in potentially using this island for a portion of future development that's yet to be permitted, and Dave's going to get into that. And then I'll go back to talking about how we came to reviewing the price that he offered and what we have for sales to compare it to, things like that.
Dave Russell, Code Officer. Back in 2009, Mr. Thornton had proposed a restaurant on the old Until Done associated parking and riverbank stabilization. And since the 2-year period has lapsed, he has to come back. So I met Mr. Thornton up there, and we started the discussion of what he would like to do, which was to build a building on that site, associated parking, and place the rail car on that site, with perhaps a footbridge trying to get over to the island, with maybe some picnic tables. He's had some conversations with DEP. I talked with Jim Byer last week. He's not available this week, but next week, the three of us are gonna get together and go out there. My concern is that it's in a floodplain, but I defer to DEP, and because it's navigable waterway, there may be some Army Corps permits that would be necessary also. Again, I defer to the state and federal agencies for that aspect of it. Our planning board will look more at what's taking place on the shoreline.
And when we say that, just to clarify, that if down the road a restaurant does happen, it's up top onto the
It's
Dawn
yes,
Till
on-
Done.
it's on the French island.
It's not on the actual island itself.
Correct.
That's where you're
I
saying
just
there'd be
think there
some
was a
picnic tables.
miscommunication somehow.
Right, just be some picnic tables and maybe a stairway going to that.
Well, it's 75 feet away, so it's gonna be a bridge.
Gonna be quite a bit. But like you said, they'd have to get all the permitting and everything else.
That's correct.
Travis?
Okay, when the proposal when the question was asked whether or not they could buy that for potential redevelopment, Bill asked me to look into what there was for comparable sales, and as you can imagine, not many. We only have one in this region that we could locate, and that's the island that would be, if you're familiar with the Rogers Farm is on the Benneck Road, the University of Maine Farm.
Yes.
If you went right through the woods to the Stillwater River there's a good-sized island in the river right there that was purchased and donated to the Boy Scouts of America. That was purchased in 2011 for $14,000. It's over twice the size and does not flood. So the staff's staff's research indicates that this is certainly a fair price. If Mr. Thornton wanted to offer that, we told him that he would have to offer it to the council. We do have a formal letter from him, which I believe you may have a copy of, with an offer for that. And staff's recommendation would be, because of what you've heard for the process that needs to be gone through to determine if anything can be done there, staff's recommendation would be that the council would consider a conditional purchase and sale agreement on the property if you are interested in following through with it, and that condition be that they go through the permitting process to see, at least far enough to see if it can be done.
Right.
And if it can't be done, if the council is comfortable with that, then that would absolve the purchase and sale agreement.
Right, and as you know, we can't vote on anything tonight because it's not a quorum, but at least, and it'd have to come back before the Finance Committee anyways.
Correct.
So if you at least continue down the road to research it and see if what can happen, what can't, and then bring it back to the Finance Committee when you can do that.
Well, how could we just outright sell it and not accept bids in case someone else wants it?
Good point.
That's your call. We received an offer, so we brought it to you for further direction.
Right. Yeah, and we can't accept it tonight anyway, so.
No, but
le-
I don't think that's fair. I think it should go out to bid. I mean, someone else might want it.
We treat it just like any other, I assume we treat it just like any other city property if we were selling it.
What is the bid level price that requires going out to bid?
Well, I think
One of the
it's an arbitrary thing. I think you could, I think Jan does have a point there, you know.
She does have a point. Well, one of the concerns I would have is that we're questioning the value of the property because we don't know if anything can be done.
Yeah.
Travis, what did we do with that property with the other island that we did to the Boy Scouts? Did we put that out?
That was not ours. We were not involved in that sale.
private.
Our typical purchase and sale arrangements are for our surplus properties like the house on 6th Street that we just sold.
Yes.
It gets advertised in the paper for 3 weeks. It's a sealed bid process. It goes through Miles' office for the bid opening, and highest bid gets the property.
So, excuse me, who was going to, was it the Thornton family that was gonna go to the DEP and the planning board and everybody else to see what they could get for permits?
Well, that's where the conversation has come to this point, is that seemed to make sense for all parties, that they could at least pursue that process knowing that you were interested in potentially selling it to them, if they could get those permits. If they can't get those permits, they'd come back and say, you know, it can't be developed, we're not interested. That's my conversation with Mike Thornton this afternoon.
And I guess that's kind of what I'm thinking. I understand what you're saying, but I'm at the point, in my mind, I'm thinking, we gotta find out if it can even be used for anything.
Correct, but there's a substantial amount of work and permitting that would need to be pursued
And
Right.
by them to
resources by
determine if they can do it. So
Right.
I can understand where they would want some direction from you if you were interested in doing that
Right.
before they went through that expense.
Because to me, if you put it out, let's just say you put it advertise it for 3 weeks, but we don't know what anybody can do with it. So who's gonna bid on, you know what I mean? We're not sure if anybody would even bid on it, but one family, because we don't know what's permitted or not.
They may not want to bid on it either, not knowing whether they
Right.
can use it or not.
Right,
That's why we're making it contingent
Kinda
on
going
planning
contingent.
board and state and federal permits.
right. So I was just trying to figure out how we could, if there's any way to go through the process of seeing what it can be used for, permitted or not, without,
You have to have a specific design proposed to those authorities before they're gonna give you any kind of an answer. So really, this is just trying to figure out the best way to approach it to protect yourself.
Right.
And to protect the buyers as well, because those answers aren't known and won't be known until it's a specific design submitted through the process.
there's also access. They have a site that you could
Has
access.
access to it. No one else is gonna be able to go
We
through
own
that
most all the
access.
property that would abut it on this side of Main Street.
So, have I'm assuming, and I could be wrong, that through a bid process before, have we always done a bid process for land or buildings or anything? We've always followed through that, there hasn't been any exceptions at all?
Nope.
Travis?
The only exceptions that I can think of is we've done two recently that were abutting landowners trying to buy a piece that only they would legally be able to access.
Access to.
So I guess it's not exactly apples to apples, but in those cases, those people approached the city and asked to buy a small piece that's adjoined to their lot.
Yes.
That the only other abutter was the city. So.
Correct.
You know, they were the only reason, because they couldn't, no one else could buy and own that piece, because it wasn't big enough to be a buildable lot. So under the code rules, they were the only possible owners of it,
Yes.
because they're the ones that had access.
You've gone through two of those and almost maybe a third one. Now, I know what we're talking about now.
Correct.
Now I hear what you, that kind of goes the same way as far as I'm concerned.
Well, except you do have other access to this.
City access, though. But that's city access, not where the Thorntons own that abutting property.
Like Rocky would have access to it also, wouldn't he?
The adjacent lots are Progrocki and then State of Maine on the other side, so.
So,
You
could you
go-
ask, could you just
go-
talk to him and ask him if he's interested at all in it?
What we could do, if I might suggest, with the house on Main Street that just burnt, that we just tore down, the council took that, our practice there is we contact abutting landowners.
That's what I mean.
First,
That's what I mean.
with a minimum bid price.
Yes.
And that's, we're going through that process now, that's a known process with the
Yes.
city. We could approach it from that angle, if
Yes.
that's what you'd like to do.
That's right, because there's only one other property
Correct.
that Stan said. So
Other
if you
than state,
contact
right?
them,
Yeah.
State of Maine's not gonna want it. So if you contact him, and then
Yes.
we go down, and then that would, yes, then that goes the right process that we've been doing
That
with the
would
other
close
ones.
that doubt.
Exactly.
We can have that answer for you, certainly by the next meeting.
Well, am I mistaken? The river's all around it.
Yeah.
It's if I understand it right, if pretty much it floods.
But I'm talking about access. I mean,
Well, that's why there would be they're talking about putting
I
a,
know, but I'm saying, you know, that's not the only way to get to the island,
Oh, I see what you're saying.
right? I mean,
Correct.
yeah.
I think if you ask the other abutting property owner, and then we can, was there a minimum bid that we did for the house?
We always look at what we have for expenses involved, back taxes, liens, things like that, and we come up with a reasonable bid to include some legal fees above that.
And then you can come back to us at the next meeting.
The
Liz.
reality.
Except we can't vote on anything tonight anyway.
We can't.
Reality of
No.
this island, yes, you can access it by water, but what are you going to do? You can't build a house, you can't build a camp, you
Oh,
can't
no,
build
I'm
a
not,
structure
no.
on it.
Right. So if we just follow through the normal practice that we did with the property.
Abutters that would have access.
Yes. Yeah, we approach it that way.
Well, I'm still uncomfortable with that.
And
Well,
and we
well,
can't vote
We
tonight.
can't vote it tonight anyways. When it comes time, we'll have to vote on it, but at least we're following the procedure that we've done with other property. Okay. All right, any other questions on this one? No? All right, thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right, that is the last item on the agenda, so I will close the Finance Committee for tonight.
I think you guys, you're just wrong.